Welcome everybody to Comic Shop News. I am the representative of the Spacing Guild, Dan, and our guests today are from the Fremen, Kyle Waffleswonder, and representing the Bene Gesserit, Jennifer Jinin Comics. We started this as kind of a joke that Kyle and I kept talking that one day we're going to do a stream, and I posted about it, and Jinin Comics hit me up within seconds.
I was
and
like, me.
This came true. This is happening. And I can't be more excited and nervous to actually talk about something I am really, really in love with besides comics. So I'm going to put this out to our guests. What made you fall in love with the world of Dune? Go Jinin Comics, go first.
Yeah. So I think that I know that I love science fiction, and science fiction has been a really big part of my life. And I knew that Dune was like the end-all be-all of science fiction, and just knowing that, I knew that I needed to get into it. And I think my first introduction into it was the Litany of Fear. Fear is the mind killer. So then that got me into it, and then I'm hooked.
Kyle?
The SyFy miniseries, actually. It was one of those. I watched a lot of SyFy Channel as a kid, and I caught the second showing of the first episode late at night. I'm like, what is this? I need more. And then after watching all three of them consecutively, parents got in one of those stupid things like, here, order a cheap book. So I'm like, ooh, Dune, I'll borrow that one. And it's just been a snowball ever since.
For me, it was as a kid, my parents dragged me to the theater to go watch this insane David Lynch movie. I had no business being at, to be honest. Like, all I knew was, hey, that guy from The Police is in this. And apparently he's ripped. So I watched it, and it was just, as a kid, the wonder of the sandworms and them riding it and not realizing how fucking stupid it was for them to be screaming Muad'Dib, using it as a weapon. But the Litany of Fear, the Gom Jabbar in that movie, fascinated me to no end. And that alone, just made me want to know more about it. And then I read the book, and I was like, David Lynch is an abomination. He does not know this book. And then I found out about Jodorowsky's later, which...
I'd never heard about that until he lent me the documentary, which was interesting, to say the least.
I mean, the fact, Pink Floyd was going to do the soundtrack. Salvador Dali was going to be Emperor Shaddam. Mick Jagger was going to be in it.
Yeah,
it's insane. And I'm like, so, I mean, he was happy that David Lynch's was horrible, but I was just like, what the fuck was that movie going to be? Especially for when it was going to come out. Dune already was almost unfilmable, I feel like, for back then, which now makes me for that Denis Villeneuve version coming out with that cast that he has built.
It's pretty solid.
It's insane. Jason Momoa is going to be Duncan Idaho.
Perfect. I feel like perfect casting across the board for the new one. I'm so excited.
Oscar Isaac is Duke Leto, insane. Yeah. But then I started thinking, well, if they have him as Duncan, I have to have the God Emperor just smashing him repeatedly. Just dead Jason Momoas everywhere.
Pile.
So since we're touching on David Lynch's Dune, what were your thoughts?
I think I had the same reaction. I had seen the David Lynch movie before I had actually read the books. So I'm like, wow, this is actually, and that was when I was younger, when I was, a kid. And I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal. And then you read the book and you're like, what did I watch that and enjoy it? And you feel like a sense of shame.
I mean, Sting kind of stole the show with, I will kill him.
See, I'd never heard of it. My original exposure was the SyFy miniseries until he brought the other version into work. I'm like, okay, I'll watch it. What the hell? Why not? And it's a dumpster fire is what it is. It's so rushed. It's so compressed. It misses out on all of what makes the series good.
It also, because I'm old, had the worst toy line ever. It was a rubber worm. It was just, everything that Star Wars was, this was not. It was cheap. Like everything about it. It was that and Clash of the Titans had toys at the same time. Both horrible. And that is my old age moment for today. It's insane to even like watching the SyFy series and then going back to the David Lynch one going, all right, I like Comic Lachlan. Sean Young as Chani was interesting, except super whitewashed.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart, I want Patrick Stewart back in his gurney again.
Yeah.
He has not aged.
He needs the battle pug though. Like he's fighting with a pug and a rifle. So good.
That's the only thing I was like, Patrick Stewart has barely aged. He looks the same. The Baron Harkonnen, like I hated, but at the same time, the H.R. Giger stuff in that was awesome.
Yep.
I wanted that throne so badly, and I still do.
I know one thing I pointed out to him was if you play a lot of Command and Conquer games, the architecture between GDI and Nod and Atreides and Harkonnen surprisingly similar. That's probably one of the reasons I got hooked on it.
So moving on to the 2000 SyFy series. Had you watched it before, Jen, or did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure because I know you were like, okay, I'm gonna watch this, and I found it on YouTube streaming, so I was like, everybody should just watch this now.
Yeah, I actually had the DVD, and I just moved across country, and I ended up getting rid of like all of my DVDs, so I don't have that one anymore. But then when you were like, it's on YouTube, I'm like, okay, I'll go back and revisit it.
You have a question, Jennifer?
Tom's. Hey Jennifer, no, I do not have a channel. Nope. Sorry. Maybe one in the future. Who knows if this goes well? We'll see.
I'll just keep having you on as a guest for my comic book stuff.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, talk to me about comic books and anything sci-fi. Yeah.
So the SyFy series, weirdly, I didn't have cable when this first released, but when I did finally have cable, Children of Dune came on, and I was like, all right, well, I'll watch this. And I was like, this is really good. And a young James McAvoy is playing Leto II. And somehow, not Renee Russo, Tim Robbins' wife, she was in Rocky Horror. I am blanking on her name. Susan Sarandon. She's in it playing a Carino, Aerilon's sister. So I'm just like, okay, this is fascinating. And then like, this is great. So then I came back and watched this. One thing I will say, whoever the costume designer was for these SyFy ones, love the shit out of hats. Like
they're all bonkers.
I could say so much about the wardrobe in this, especially Paul at the end when he's in that gi or whatever the
and
fuck.
the like.
Yes.
Yeah. He's got the, I don't know.
He looked like he was about to tour with Van Halen in the 80s. Like him and David Lee Roth were about to like rock out.
Yep.
And I don't want to shit on this movie because I really like this movie. Truest to the book that so far we're going to get until Denis Villeneuve, who has already said that he thought the others were kind of posers and he wanted to do the real 5-hour opus. Possibly 6. There's 2 movies, so who knows how long it's going to be.
Time is always the issue. Like I would have liked to have seen the SyFy series with a bigger budget.
Oh, well, yeah.
But for the budget they had, I think it's probably as close as we're going to get to.
So, like, the things for, like, David Lynch, them leaving out the whole Bene Gesserit breeding program and just leaving that all out about why Paul and why the Bene Gesserit were pissed at Jessica. Huge thing.
And that, to me, like, in the series, the Bene Gesserit have so much to do with everything. Like, it's almost like just a series about them, I feel like. But
you totally could do a mini series on like Netflix just about them, like
which apparently it is going to be a series. They're going to do a side series for the Bene Gesserit. Maybe I think that I recently heard that it might have gotten canceled or pushed back or moved around.
Oh, that would be fast because there's so much you can mine with that.
Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah,
well, Amazon blew all their money on Lord of the Rings.
It's true.
Have you heard how much they paid just for the rights? It's $250 million just for the rights.
Well deserved.
If they're gonna spend the money, like I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd, not as much as him, but I'm pretty far in there. So a very more subdued Baron Harkonnen in this.
not as much pustules and
Yeah.
grotesqueness.
Fade not as ripped as Sting. I like having Raban the Beast in it. Again, staying more true to it. Stilgar, I weirdly liked in this. The Fremen in general, I thought were fairly good. I did think at times, though, like it hit me. I was like, so they constantly call out Paul for going native and, you know, kind of cultural appropriation and everything. And I know the series has been called out for that in general.
Dune in general has some of those dark spots. But
yeah, but I mean, what was it, 1968?
60, yeah.
Yeah, that originally came out. So, I mean, we were
expected.
Everybody was in the Kung Fu movies back then, too. So,
and especially when I think about the Baron Harkonnen, like thinking about the subtext that he's queer and raping and a lot of that.
The young boys.
So I'm really hoping that they just do away with that.
I feel like they still have to kind of touch on it a little bit, at least to kind of paint the character. Like he's like a hedonistic Roman.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
I like the portrayal of the, you know, because he's so fat, all the aspects of gluttony. So not just what he consumes, but what he surrounds himself with too.
Yeah, like you can see him walking into a vomitorium or like an orgy and just being like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Just rolling over people,
floating around. The girl who played Aerilon in this series, I have no idea why. I think Julie Cox.
Yeah, I think so.
I found her like oddly stunning. There was something about her where like she had that princess-like characteristic, and the way she carried herself, like diplomacy-wise, I bought her character. I bought it hard. Some characters I didn't as much. The guy playing Paul, I was hit and miss as like.
Yeah.
The version in Children of Dune I really liked. Well, he was older by that time. The younger version of Paul, I was like, Except when he was doing the impression of Baron Harkonnen in front of Gurney, I really like that.
I think Yui's character was the one I wasn't terribly fond of, because like, his character is supposed to be detached emotionally, and yet he betrays everything he knows for his apparently dead wife. Like that didn't fit terribly well to me.
Yeah, I bet there are some character issues, and again, like sometimes you lose a lot with the characters because of the time you can and can't put into those characters. Like Liet Kynes.
Dr. Kynes.
Yeah.
I felt like he kind of got short-shifted a little bit. Like in the books, he's so big a character where once he's gone, he's not really there.
It's mentioned twice, maybe.
Yeah, it was more about his dream than anything else. What were things that you really liked that stood out to you that like you thought the series did well?
Oh, me?
Yes,
okay.
yeah, sorry.
So sorry, I'm like, wait, who's gonna talk? So one thing that because I like just rewatched it, and I don't know if Game of Thrones is still on my mind, and I know this is a really weird I don't know, but at the very end with Aaliyah, and we just see her there at the end, and she's just cackling.
Yes.
And just laughing. I'm like, wait, is this the same girl who played Lady Mormont in Game of Thrones? So little 8-year-old girl.
Oh, I
like,
wish.
Is this the same? And I'm like, wait, this was like 20 years ago. This could not be the same girl. And I don't know why. I just felt like that channel. I just loved her character, just like cackling at the end. That stuck out with me. Yeah, that stuck out with me a lot. At the very end, I really enjoyed that.
The worms for me, like the improvement in the worms from, the David Lynch to what we got in this. I mean, even with the CG backgrounds in the back, I was just like, okay, like I can buy this. They used more of the Fremen terminology that was missing from the David Lynch one. What was it? The flesh is his, but the water is the tribe's.
Mm-hmm.
The prayer, the bless the maker, and going through all that. The Gom Jabbar part I thought was weaker in this than in the David Lynch version.
Yeah.
The Bene Gesserit in general I thought weren't as threatening looking Maybe because they had
No.
hair.
They were more fantasy looking. I think, I don't know, like elvish looking.
Yeah, like they just came from Rivendell.
Yeah, yep.
A little bit.
That's like the discussion we had about, because this movie came out right around the same time as episode 1, and a lot of the headgear looks surprisingly similar along with the costumes for the not the Nubians.
So it's like,
Yeah.
George Lucas is doing this shit. Let's get it on. Let's give him all the hats. The prime example of it, of the designer, must have been in Children of Dune. Ghanama's wedding outfit is like out of this world. Like the hat's gigantic. It's got this giant like V-neck all the way down. And I'm just like, I think she's supposed to be like 13 or 14 in Children of Dune. I was like, this is getting weird.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, well, I like Leon the Professional. Fuck you.
I
That really, every time someone's like, Natalie Portman was kind of really attractive. And I was like, she was like 11.
That's a felony.
Yeah. Like I've heard people say that. I'm just like, oh, buddy.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's probably it's a SciFi series, not about technology.
Yeah.
So like it's thousands and thousands of years in the future. They've got space travel, laser weapons, shields, all nonsense. That's not the focus. It's the people, their religious analogies and whatnot. I think that's probably what got me hooked the most. Is like, yeah, we could be talking about shields and whatnot, but we're not. It's how the religion shapes the planet. Essentially.
Also, I love it's this jerkwater planet that really no one wants to be on, but they have to be there because of this fucking one thing output. The spice must flow. The spice must flow.
So do you guys know about how like Frank Herbert, why he originally created it? He was actually a journalist living up in Seattle, Oregon area. And they were at the time doing some pushing sand dunes to reclaim the area to give it more grassland. And he did this really shitty article for a paper that ended up never getting published. He abandoned it, and then that created Dune.
That's insane. I never heard that before.
Article. Yep, I just recently read Road to Dune, and because I just recently also moved to Oregon, where he went to do all of this research for the article, I live about 3 hours away. So I'm like, okay, now that I live here, I'm going to go there, but haven't made it yet.
Well, that's insane. Like,
yeah.
My mind's blown by that. It was a shitty article that, like,
it was just a shitty article about, yeah.
One of the things that I did weirdly like is the way that the Fremen have to have these showdowns for basically prove their manhood or who's the leader. So you had to have the Chrysanite fight. And the suffering in Paul having to take someone's life. But he also has the worst speech after, I learned today from killing Jameis that it's hard to take a life. It was something like that.
All these people
and I was just like, oh God, like, and of course the way Alec Newman delivers it is fucking horrible. Like all I felt was like Anakin in episode 2, where he's like, I killed them and the children and the women. And then she's like, I love you. It's like, wait, what the fuck? Just
yeah.
The only thing crazier was like Daenerys' turn, where she's like, flying, burn it all. I could bitch about that. I'm not going to go there right now. I can't bring myself.
Maybe that's another Game of Thrones stream, because I have a lot of feelings about
I wouldn't even buy the Blu-ray. I don't want to watch it.
That's the only part I've seen of Game of Thrones is that final sequence, and she roasts everybody. I'm like, I don't care. This is awesome.
That is awesome, but maybe this isn't the right place. We'll talk about Game of Thrones.
I mean, there's bad acting to be had. There is some in here. The guy who played Duncan Idaho in this, I barely remember him. I watched it. I'm just like, he was so not memorable.
Yeah.
But in the book, like, him and Gurney are such big parts. But in this series, I was just like, okay, like, there's Duncan.
They probably want to focus more on Paul. That's why. I mean, you gotta allocate proper screen time.
Was it John Hurt or William Hurt who played
William Hurt?
I thought he was great as Leto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was really good. the facial emoting when he finds out he was betrayed, I really enjoyed. Plus that scene where he basically gives up the spice to save the workers.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who played Lady Jessica. I thought she was fairly good.
Yeah.
It was Alice Krieg, the Borg Queen, who played her in the sequel. Gurney, I thought was okay. Again, I would have rather had Patrick Stewart, but we can't get everything.
Yeah.
Was it Josh Brolin's going to be Gurney? And like
Mm-hmm.
that's insane to me too. Like,
yeah.
I got that cast. My God, I'm not going to go there. So we'll start with you, Jennifer. What did you not like about the series?
The SyFy series specifically.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a double-edged sword for me. So I really did not like Paul's character, or maybe the acting. I felt like he was kind of a brat in it compared to maybe how I read him in the book, how the David Lynch series. So I felt like the character in the SyFy series, the character was a brat. However, in Frank Herbert's notes about Paul, when he wrote the book, was that he wrote him as a character who you're supposed to have conflict about characters who are very charismatic. And so do we just blindly follow charismatic characters? And I think that's what Paul becomes. But I just did not, I did not get a sense of him like loving his people, anything like that. I just felt like he was a total brat in the entire series. And that would be like one of the things that I didn't care for about it.
So being the lone female on the panel,
mm-hmm.
There are people who bash this for not being kind to women.
100. I don't think that there's a video live stream long enough for me to go over that.
I get weird about it because the Bene Gesserit are so like manipulative behind the scenes, where they are super powerful.
Yeah.
But then you go to like, I could be married to this woman for politics, but I'm going to have my concubine here who's going to be my real wife.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing where like I totally get where it's coming from, but then at the same time you do have some strong characters in there too. Yeah. It's trying to like balance it out, and I think for that time period that it was made, that maybe that's part of it.
I mean, I think that, I could definitely critically say that about almost 90% of series, that it's not necessarily kind to women. And my critique about saying that, in the time period and this and that, and this is how it would have historically been, and this and that, it's like, and this is the same critique once again of Game of Thrones. We see things like one or two women in the series, and we see rape in the series, and we just see things that are not kind. I have fucking dragons. You're telling me that in a series that has dragons and zombies and all of these things, we can't have a world where we're just decent to women and treat them like normal characters, without having tragic backstories. That is one thing that I like. I don't feel like the Dune series has a tragic backstory for a lot of women. So that is a shining spot in it, I think.
I'd say Johnny's character is probably the strongest female character in the series.
You don't think Jessica is to a degree?
No, because when the challengers start coming to challenge Paul, she starts, taking them out way beforehand.
So I will say there is a tragic character to me who's a female in this. Aerilon, I feel, is a tragic character. She basically gets fucked out of love. Yeah. She has to take care of the kids. They hate her, and like they're not nice to her. And she's just kept
to her books. Like, I feel like that was something they mentioned in the SciFi series.
They mentioned the books, that she has her books and her writing, and that's
her books and her writing, and she's just okay.
She'll be her only comfort, I think.
Yeah, that'll be her only comfort.
I understand that may be tragic, but at the same time, if I was left to my books, I'd kind of be okay.
I mean, for her, she like gave up basically her life for this, and she basically is constantly like fucked with. Like, and I mean, this is like a series with a lot of tragic characters. like Leto, we had talked. You think Duke Leto was a tragic character?
Mm-hmm.
Leto II, the God Emperor, I think is 100% a tragic character. I mean, he somehow he decided he had to be the one to go down the golden path that his father refused to go down, and he was trapped by fate. So he decided to accept it and basically.
And he knew he just had to do it.
Gave up his humanity.
I'd say Gurney, probably my most sympathetic and tragic character. Like, he gets rescued by this family from, Harkonnen slave pits, probably not being as fabulous as he could be. And then built up, trains the Duke's son, went from a slave to, the right hand of his Duke. And then it all crumples around him because of, Yui. Like, hey, I want my wife, so I'm going to screw over the Emperor. We're going to crumble the entire family.
Alia.
It's true.
I mean, born with... a million voices basically in her head.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one that ends up possessing her is fucking grandfather she killed. Like, who's just like, oh dear girl. Like, come get that fabulous boy.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's crazy because, I mean, it's not her fault.
Yeah.
And that I felt that she's kind of tragic, and like that weird thing in Children of Dune where Jessica's holding her dying body and she goes, blood. Like, it was so weird, but I'm like, at the same time, I'm just like, oh my god, that fucking poor girl. And all the Reverend Mothers are like, kill her, kill the abomination. Although the girl in the David Lynch one, Alicia Witt playing the young Ollie in that, way more creepy with that voice she put on during it.
Oh yeah.
Grandfather, that's my brother. He's come to kill you. Grandfather.
Yeah, the David Lynch one glossed over a significant portion of the story in all aspects of from start to finish.
But I love the still suits in that. I love the still suits in David Lynch's Dune. I don't know why. Like, the fact they're in the desert wearing black is fascinating to start with. But that was one of the things I really liked. I hate them using the voice going Morty to shoot. It just, oh god, I hate
Pretty
that.
cringy is what it was.
Yeah.
But the knife fight was 100 times better in that versus Sting than it was with Faden, because Sting's overacting. He's like, someone finally is letting me act. Fuck the police. Don't stand so close to me. And he wasn't wearing a kimono. I can't. That fucking kimono. I still I'm watching and I was like, what in the world is he wearing? And why did I forget this after 10 years?
That was on purpose. That was
my mind
brain doing you a favor.
I paused my Apple TV. I was like, what
Why?
In the fuck is going? And I immediately text you going, I'm in a scene. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why he's wearing this. And I screen capped it and sent it to her.
I need an adult.
I literally. Oh my god. Those outfits. I'm sorry. I'm just losing. I could go down a long rabbit hole about that outfit. Okay. So
the article I sent you also, them using the body bags for the Spacing Guild.
Ooh.
Not telling them afterwards, hey, by the way, those were used.
The Navigator in this version of Dune, the special effects and CG were so bad. Like, real bad. It looked like something they were like, hey, do you remember Independence Day? Let's take a look at that alien, but do it 20 times shittier.
Yeah.
But I did like the guy who was like with the weird hat. He's like, the spice must flow, and just walks off.
I actually really like the Spacing Guild outfits in the miniseries and the sequel. For what they do, it should be bizarre and kind of off-putting, and especially the way they move, they sleek around, kind of like the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises, like that kind of intentional movement.
Yeah, it's weird because like some of the things they hit, like the one that really bothered me, and it was in the sequel, the Tleilaxu, were not how I imagined they'd be. Mm. Like, I had this whole vision in my head from the books, and then actually got to see them. I was like, well, yeah. In the books, the face dancers and the golas just fascinated me to no end, especially the prequels, the Butlerian Jihad and all of those, the Tlaxu and what the experiments they were doing were like so interesting. Especially the Bene Gesserit, how they were founded was even interesting in that. But it's weird how spice ends up like this one planet, this one product ends up running the universe.
Yep.
Just was one little dust bowl backwater.
Mhm.
Basically, God, I have notes and I have not even looked at them yet. Actually, this is the first time I've taken notes for anything. Okay, the one thing that I don't remember the explanation of the water garden. How is that water garden working there?
In the castle
Yeah,
or the
it was in the I guess the palace sort of.
In Aerilon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be it's like condensation on a car in the morning.
Mhm.
Like the glass gets cold overnight and just condenses the water down. Although realistically, that small amount wouldn't be able to sustain those plants in that kind of environment.
No.
The Hunter Seeker was kind of not what I expected either when I saw it in there.
That scene bugged me a lot because they just take over the palace from their sworn, enemy, the Harkonnen. You think they do a better job of like, hey, Paul's going to sleep here. Let's make sure there's no doors in the walls right above his bed.
Yeah.
Like that might stand out a bit when you're taking over a palace.
And I took some bad notes. I was like, spice beer. Why do we not have this?
Like in our universe or their universe?
For us, like something like spice beer. Like I saw a recipe for it, but again, like this is something stupid. I was watching going, why don't we have this? I actually wrote a note on that.
In the series, it looked more like a smoothie than a beer.
I'm fine with that. I mean, it's like
bit
drinking
chunky.
Guinness.
It's true.
Paul's spice dreams. Paul drunk. Oh, another note I took. In D&D, would Gurney be a bard?
Ooh.
Yes. Absolutely.
I want to say no, but that's just because anytime I just don't like it when people play bards at all. So I just want to forget bards in D&D.
He had the lute, so I was just, or whatever it was called. It was their version of the lute, the balisette. Yeah, and that was my random thought. I was like, is he a bard or would he be a rogue? He does use the knives.
I would go rogue, but I have a thing against bards at all. So
I'd vote bard just because Aerilon's first comment was his notoriety for playing it. It wasn't,
and his mastery of the knives.
Yes,
yeah,
but it was on par. So I mean, singing and shanking.
Weirdly, there's the speech at the end of the movie. I don't know why it bothered me. Maybe it's because I think that David Lynch, it was Aerilon at the end making the speech. But they have Chani do it in this one where she's like, she may be his wife politically, but I will be his real wife.
And they talk about like she says something about concubines as well, like kind of like a nod to his mom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those interesting because weirdly I wanted Aerilon to talk about it, but like in the sequel, Ghanima does that speech to Farron. Where she's like, and someday there might be love, but it's politics.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like the same kind of speech for Aerilon. I guess it's almost the same deal. But again, Aerilon, I always feel bad for it. I don't know why. Because she does shitty stuff in the movie and the book where she's like poisoning Chani.
Mm-hmm.
Chani in the series, she didn't like move me that much. It was like really she was strong, but like she didn't seem as like
still a solid side character. She wasn't
warrior like.
Yeah.
And I felt like in the David Lynch version, she was much more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that was written that way, or do you think that was just how it came across?
It might have been a choice. Because I feel like in the book she was a much more aggressive character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also at the same time where we go into the going native thing of, oh yeah, Paul's gonna fall for this, wild native.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes into the whole, there's some real problems with.
So I recently rewatched Avatar, begrudgingly, and same thing happened with Jake Sully's character.
Jake Sully.
Yeah,
Yep.
that movie's great till the end when the humans should have won, but that's beside the point.
Shut the fuck up. I mean, it's Dances with Wolves. It is. John Smith. That's all that.
It's funny that you mentioned Avatar because in thinking about what we probably could have gotten with the Jodorowsky movie, I mean, obviously that would have been made 40 years ago. And did they really 40 years ago have the technology to make a Dune movie?
No,
And
right
so
away.
with Avatar, that was why I think that movie had been brewing a lot. And the reason why it was so good is because, okay, maybe we finally have the technology to make Avatar. And I think that now with the new movie of Dune coming out this year, we finally have the technology to see Dune how it should be. So
I had that
it's funny that you
feeling.
mentioned Avatar.
Alita Battle Angel was
Ooh.
that's the one where I was like, okay, like this technology for the even though it was like uncanny
Mhm.
valley jarring at the beginning, watching her eyes.
Mhm.
That actress Rose Salazar sold the shit out of that. Once
That was
you got
a
over
good
it.
movie. That was a fantastic movie. Truly, I was upset with myself for watching it like at home, and not
I saw it
actually
in
going and seeing
IMAX
theater.
when it came out, and I
Oh.
left going, "This was actually good. Like
Yeah.
it shouldn't have been good. It should not have been, and it
Mhm.
ended up being better than it should have been." And then I went into the, oh my god, they can do an Evangelion movie. They really can do
I
it.
hope not.
Between that and
Woo!
Pacific Rim, and I started
Yeah.
thinking, I was like, this could happen, and I was like,
Mhm.
I don't want to even think about it because I know in my head how they're gonna fuck it up. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
fuck it up. Like years ago when they were gonna do Cowboy Bebop, and they're like, we're gonna have Keanu Reeves playing Spike. I was like, no. Sorry, off top. By the way, is anybody excited about Avatar sequel? Like, I watched the movie once at the theater and I never watched it again.
I really liked
Mhm.
what's his name? It's the guy who runs security, the general corporal with the scars on his face.
Oh,
He
I can't remember that actor's name. He was in that movie Don't Breathe, and I can't look at him the same anymore. No, like he got a turkey baster full of cum shoved up his ass. He was trying to kidnap women and impregnate
don't
them.
kink shame people.
No, like the girl, like he was gonna try and do it to this girl, and she got ahead of him, and you heard
okay.
the squeeze sound, and I was just like, never again. And I'm sorry for even bringing this up, but he mentioned that actor, and I that movie fucked me up for a while because I was like, what the fuck was this blind Vietnam vet? What the fuck is going on?
No, I really like his like unwavering commitment to the cause.
He was almost Cable for Deadpool 2.
That would have been amazing.
Mhm.
Like I hate the people go soft because women, children, and that stuff. Like no, if you're gonna portray a hard character, straight on, unwavering. That's why I like Rorschach so much. I don't care about the feelings. Here's the goal.
Don't bring up Rorschach. That is like his whole childhood led up to that. Like
Yeah.
mom was a hooker. Dude's coming over putting out cigarettes on him.
Mhm.
Oh boy, that's a whole other episode.
That's a whole nother stream.
Yeah.
Watchmen sounds good.
Here are my problems.
Yeah.
Weirdly. Okay, back on topic. So the Denis Villeneuve movie, what are you wanting to see from it? And how far do you want this series to go? Do you want it to get up to God Emperor? Do we need Dune Messiah?
Yes.
Yeah, whole thing.
I am all here for the new Dune. I'm here. I think the casting has been fantastic. I love what Villanueva did for Blade Runner. I really enjoyed that sequel.
That is a hot topic sequel because people get real pissed.
The sequel is really, really good.
They're always
I
like,
think it was
it's boring.
fantastic. Nope,
I always hear it's
fantastic.
boring, and it is so fucking beautifully shot.
Beautiful. People who say that it's boring, have you watched the first one? Like
that's what I think. I don't think people really watched it, and I know Ridley Scott did not help the cause by saying it's too fucking long. I wrote too long of a movie.
Yeah.
But yet he put out Alien Covenant, which was like a jerk off movie to Fassbender. Like literally, like he kissed himself.
I love Fassbender as an actor. Love him.
He's great, but that movie had some real issues. I'm a Covenant was.
Probably the only thing I don't like about the upcoming Dune movie is I don't like famous actors in this kind of thing. Like they should have picked as many unknown people as possible.
But I feel like the bigger actors are the ones who are going to be gone real quick, except for Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
And Zendaya being Chani is the one I was kind of about, but I mean, she might knock it out of the park. There was, I forget what series it was, or if it was Netflix series or a movie that everybody said she was fucking fantastic in.
I think you're talking about Euphoria, which was HBO. I will die on this hill. It was fantastic. You can,
I heard she was fantastic in that.
Fight me about it. She was fantastic, and she was okay, in Spider-Man. But I think that her in Euphoria sold me to see her as Chani.
But I want a Chani, like, I'm wondering if Villeneuve is going to bring more of, like, kind of give the women a little bit of a stronger role. Rebecca Ferguson playing Jessica is fascinating. I'm going to try and look up this. I'm just happy they didn't get Jared Leto in this. It's the one thing, like, I hate Jared.
That was the one thing that I didn't care for with Blade Runner. It's
Stellan Skarsgård's Vladimir Harkonnen. Like,
yeah.
Batista is Beast Raban. Javier Bardem is Stilgar.
I could see that.
Fucking brilliant. David Dasmalchian as Peter DeVries is crazy. Charlotte Rampling is Helen Mahine.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that one. Babs Oluskin as Jameis. Well, I know he's going to be dead. Interesting. And then, like, the second wave is all, like, famous character actors, but they're not big names. But, like, you've seen them in a million different movies. But, man, like, Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. I was just like, he's too big to be Duncan. But, like, everybody they've ever had as Duncan has not looked like they could fight.
Yeah.
And then they have to bring him back in the sequel as Mentat.
Ooh, yeah.
See, like, I don't picture, like, Jason Momoa as, like, a Mentat type character.
Mm-mm.
I mean, maybe they'll replace him, when the Gola comes. I guess maybe they can get Peter Dinklage to be that little dwarf.
That'd be amazing.
He's too good to even be in that role, though. Like,
yeah.
Maybe they could have him as, like, the God Emperor, just as the worm with his head in it. Which, that's the thing I'm scared of. Like, I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't.
Like, will it look cheesy? Like, do we have the technology to make it not look cheesy yet?
I've seen...
Like, less Tremors kind of cover artwork kind of thing? Like,
yeah, because even that picture from the cover where it's like a statue, but it's got the little T-Rex arms and the head popping out. But, like... wanting to see his not the honored matres, what were his guards called? The water
should took better notes.
Well, I'm now in God Emperor. I wasn't planning on going to God Emperor.
One thing I noticed about the SyFy miniseries is it looked like a play. Like, a lot of what was portrayed you could picture, like, sitting in a theater and seeing before you.
I would pay for that. I actually like
just dudes and shovels between scenes, moving the sand.
Do you think we'll get, like, Dune the musical on Broadway?
We did get
on ice.
We did get Evil Dead.
On ice.
We did get Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Fish speakers, where they're his guards that are kind of like Bene Gesserit too, and then the honored matres from the other ones that are the anti-Bene Gesserits. They're fleeing from the robots. Oh God, I went too far with that. Oh, there's some of those books that I hate. Chapter House of Dune is one of those I really did not like.
There's a lot of talk about, all of the series, like what are Anderson and just what they did with everything. I don't think a lot of people are fans.
No, but I did like them revealing what the rift was between the Atreides and Harkonnens in those prequels, though.
Yeah.
Like, The Atreides did fuck them over pretty hard. Looking up if that TV series is still happening. I know, I'm very professional on it.
That's good.
Well, this is from June 2019. Dune: The Sisterhood.
Yeah.
And it's to show strong women. And does not say who is going to be putting it out here, but I think at one time it was going to be. It's penciled to pilot. Oh, Denis Villeneuve was going to direct the pilot.
Oh.
That's really fascinating now.
Yeah.
So it might have more to do with how successful the first movie is, because they're not going to invest in, multi-part series if the origin stuff tanks.
So I feel like this is one of those things, though. It would behoove them to put out advanced information about some of this stuff, like even if it's like a little prequel, like cartoon or just.
They're gonna need pamphlets when you buy your ticket. Like, here's your definitions. Here's your definitions.
So funny enough, what terrified me, like my parents had The Stand by Stephen King in the basement and Dune in the basement, and I'd go down there, and the Dune book, I remember opening it for the first time and going, "Oh my God, there's a dictionary in the back. Oh, fuck this." And I remember being completely intimidated by that book. And then The Stand was like this freaking thick, or at least when I was a kid, it seemed like it was the biggest book ever. And I was intimidated by that book until I actually finally sat down and read it. And I loved it, of course. Ending still sucks, just like every other Stephen King book. But, I mean, that's a whole other deal. I could go on about that for a while. Yeah, the Dune series, like I don't know how successful the movie, Denis Villeneuve's movie. I feel like it's gonna have kind of like Alita Battle Angel, where it's gonna have like its fans, but financially, how much they're gonna have to dump into this movie, it's gonna be hard to make it back.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like a cult hit kind of thing. That's probably what I foresee. Kind of like Blade Runner. Like that didn't seem like it was astoundingly successful in the theaters.
No, it wasn't, because there was the dumbest thing that could ever fucking happen. And it I think a lot of movie companies learned their lesson. So Blade Runner came out, John Carpenter's The Thing came out, and this little movie by Steven Spielberg called E.T. came out within a week of each other. One of them annihilated the other ones. Blade Runner flopped. The Thing was ran out of theaters because a lot of people called it a cruel movie, horrible ending, the pissed off about the dogs in it. There was a lot of things, like it almost ruined John Carpenter's career. He said that he had to do Starman as a apology. Like he had to do a nice movie after that. And now John Carpenter's The Thing is one of probably the greatest sci-fi horror movies. And Blade Runner, I mean, it's got such a cult following, and E.T.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Do you think that there's any, like thinking about, a lot of times people going into these movies, there's already a fan base built around the books. So with Blade Runner, we've got Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah.
So we've already got like these like classic, but E.T. doesn't really have that source material.
No, it had its merchandising. It really had its merchandising, and I think it came out, it did phenomenal, and then it went away.
Yeah.
Had one of the worst Atari games ever made.
I think Dune's got a bigger following than like it's really let on. Like, it's not like where there's like the Star Wars, Star Trek. There's lots of merchandise. There's lots of conventions. But there's a lot of people that like we work with who, like, you mention it and their eyes light up like, oh, I saw that or I read that book.
But it's one of those quietly, like, nobody broadcasts that they love it.
No. I think it's like a nerd's nerd thing.
Kind of.
Like, there's a hierarchy of nerddom, and like anyone can get into Star Wars. But like Dune, I think that you have to be on like a higher level to really appreciate it. So
I'm gonna make a real hard comparison here. So it's like being a fan of the band Rush. They're called a nerd band. but they're like technical, like amazing players. Their music can be annoying. You love them or you hate them.
Very
and I feel
polarizing.
like Dune is one of those series where you have to invest so much to really appreciate it. And
True.
it's not something that you can, it's not disposable media. Like you literally have to drink it all in to appreciate it. And like once you actually like understand what's going on, the thinking starts.
Yeah.
And it's a thinking man's sci-fi, if that makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
you really have to follow what's going on. And one of the beautiful things in it, I don't know how much people catch on, is most of the series, it's an unavoidable destiny they're trying to escape or just dive headlong into.
Mm-hmm.
Like Paul was fighting to not go down the golden path. He did not want the jihad. He was scared of the jihad, went headlong into the jihad, avoided the golden path.
Mm-hmm.
Leto went full blown into the golden path and basically destroyed himself.
Yeah.
And he destroyed the planet.
One of the parts that stuck out for me is when the when Paul and Jessica first meet the Reverend Mother. Or
the Wild Reverend Mother.
the wow, yeah, and then she basically admits, like, yes, I know what you're doing, but I'm going to help you anyways. Like, we know you're using our religion that we planted here in the first place to survive and to take your house back.
So I feel like with the actors they're going to have in this movie, that could get people to go see it without being too into the books. What I would love to see is people kind of get into the books and go in kind of knowing what's going on. I know that's asking a lot.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things, like, again, like we worked overnight freight for where we work. And I just happened to be walking out one night and he saw the back of my arm. He goes, "You like Dune?" I'm like, "Yeah." And it was just like,
Here
all
it
right.
goes.
So then the talk started. And you might have found one of my posts either for comic books or for Dune. I posted one time, but I definitely found you when you posted your Ben Gesserit tattoo.
Yep. I don't know if you can see her. Definitely based on more of the like David Lynch.
Yeah. I actually like that look better.
Yeah.
I have the Spacing Guild and then the Litany, just the Fear is the Mind Killer. That's my Spacing Guild. And that I get asked at work if it's a gang sign or if I've done time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we work with a bunch of racists named Mike.
Oh, several. Okay.
It's a hard. It's a lumberyard. So
I feel kind of not bad, but I feel like I could talk about Dune. I could talk about like the different sequels. I could talk about the history on how Dune came and like Jodorowsky's Dune and what the movie could have been. And I feel really bad when people just look at my tattoo and they're like, what is that? And I'm like, okay, so Dune did for science fiction what Lord of the Rings did for fantasy. And we're going to talk about like these things. And then I have to take a step back and be like, I'm sorry. Like you just #triggered, man. Like I'm there.
So the thing in Jodorowsky's Dune that kills me is that giant Bible with the Mobius art.
And
there's only two of them.
Where's it at?
There's only two of them in existence.
I feel like Nicolas Cage. Like I'm gonna go steal the Declaration of Independence. Like I'm gonna go steal that like storyboard, that 1,000-page storyboard.
So when that came out, why the fuck did they not make a version of that for people to look through?
That'd be astronomically expensive. That's why
I don't care.
Like a medical textbook.
Yeah.
I would pay it just to look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the Death of Superman Lives documentary. Have you ever watched that?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God. I recommend it. It's the Nicolas Cage Superman movie that never happened. It's a whole documentary about that and Kevin Smith and Tim Burton, everything involved.
Wow.
That sounds
The
terrible.
storyboards are in it and everything. They managed to get everybody who worked on that movie to talk about it. Even the crazed producer, John Peters. It's an unbelievable story. It's fucked up, and they have the Nicolas Cage like costume tests in the Superman costume with a mullet. Like
that's the last thing I want to see is Nicolas Cage in spandex and a mullet. Like
I want to see that. I want to see that.
I think I have the digital file. I will send it to you just so
please.
It's unreal. Like it fucked me up for a long time because I was like, I kind of want to see this, and like Nicolas Cage just, I don't know, I think I feel like Superman. I don't know.
I truly think that Nicolas Cage is an underrated actor, and I think like the real turning point for me for appreciation for him was Mandy. If you've seen that,
I've
like,
seen it. Mandy was fucking
man,
awesome.
it was fantastic, and I think that's when I became a true Nicolas Cage believer.
So I listened to the How Did This Get Made podcast, and they had the director and the producer and writer of Crank on. And
That's amazing.
so that movie was originally made with Nicolas Cage in mind, and he was too expensive, so they got they got Jason Statham. Like, I can't. They
Like
actually
one or the other.
They actually talked about doing a shot-for-shot remake with Nicolas Cage, redoing the movie just to see how it would be like, and I was like, I'd fucking pay.
Yeah.
I would 100% pay to see that. Like, I have to. And I'm amazed by it because, like, I love Jason Statham. Like, unironically, like, that dude just makes me laugh.
That series is the closest you're ever going to get to, like, live-action Looney Tunes. That's all I think of. Like, I'm just expecting anvils to come out of nowhere.
When they had the papier-mâché Godzilla fight of Jason Statham versus the Asian guy, like...
The power plant, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. And then, like, Bai Ling is speaking English, but they subtitled her in it. Like, Crank 2 is such a fucked up movie. Like, I love it.
Masterpiece is the word.
Yes, and it had Corey Haim in it right before he died.
I've never seen Crank, but you just said Bai Ling, and she's like a, hashtag triggered. I'll watch it now.
Crank 2. That's all Bai Ling all day.
Done.
Also, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park is in it, and watching Jason Statham and Amy Smart have sex during a horse race.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird fucking movie, and it never fails to like go, wait, what are they doing now? The guy who did the special effects and makeup for Passion of the Christ did the effects for that movie.
It's bizarre.
It's worth looking up. Sorry for Crankcast. So, do we want to see practical effects or CG for the new movie, or is it going to be like a mixture of both?
Both.
Yeah, it's probably because I know 2049 was pretty heavy in both. There was a lot of miniature work. I think you can do more with miniatures because it doesn't trick the eye as much. Like you know it's real versus even no matter how good CG is nowadays, you can usually pick out like, okay, that's computer, that's not.
I can't remember who's playing Fade. I don't even know if they've cast a Fade.
Can't think. Yeah.
I need someone who's going to be like over the top, but have a good knife fight. Like Robert Pattinson? No. Willem Dafoe. Wow, yes. Fade's really old.
Yeah.
Actually, he would have been a great Harkonnen, like Baron Harkonnen. I think I would have been down for that.
Emperor Shaddam is Willem Dafoe.
I love Willem Dafoe. Like he's fucking nuts.
Just sneak him up in there as a Fremen.
What movie? Oh, just his character from Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you just call me? Gary Oldman also, like, his character from The Professional. Do you like Mozart? I could I'm a movie nerd. I can go on forever. So do we feel like the books are done now at this point?
For Dune?
Yeah, like are we done now? Like we had like them with all the Golas of them come back. They had Leto the first, Leto the second. Of course, we have to have Duncan Idaho because what the fuck?
Kill several of them. It's Tuesday.
The only thing that I think that we could see coming back, and this is something that I have a love-hate relationship with, are comic book renditions of the movies or shows. Like Game of Thrones came out with comic books, and
they're so far behind.
Yeah, having read the books and having watched this show, and as much as I love comic books, I've never picked them up because I just feel like I get like oversaturated. So I could see a Dune comic book coming out, but which I think there might be, but
The original David Lynch movie adaptation had Bill Sienkiewicz do the art inside. It was fucking amazing.
I think maybe a graphic novel
Mm-hmm.
instead. That'd be more fitting.
Yeah, probably. Blade Runner, they have Titan Comics is doing one right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad, but it's the talent on it is kind of disappointing. So out of the series, what is your favorite book?
I'm just gonna go classic and just go Dune. Like that was what got me into it. So
Probably God Emperor. Mostly because the opening, like
You love the Duncans, like
yeah, unless Killing of Duncans is pretty cool too. But no, like just the visual, like in my mind of them trying to escape the dogs and whatnot, like that stood out to me.
one of the things that stood out to me in that book in particular was how Leto was talking about how sometimes the worm sense would take over and he'd lose control of his own body, where like he'd do this fucking barrel roll across and crush people. And he always had people trying to assassinate him. And there was the one character who was a relative or a distant relative.
The female?
Her, and then the father or uncle of her, but like,
or
might have been her father, but I can't remember his name, but they were unable to be sensed in the prescience. They were like ghosts to it. And I always found that fascinating. Children of Dune, for me, I think is my favorite. And a lot of it was because of like how Paul came against his own
like teachings.
Yeah, his own like cult of personality. The downfall of Alia and her descent into madness, and the way she kind of like seduced Duncan in it.
Yeah, that
it was a weird thing.
That was portrayed pretty well in the series.
Very much. And also like Leto and Ganima, their relationship, and they kind of go into that whole incestuous thing where like they want to keep the bloodline pure. And I'm like, but Leto's struggling also with how he knows he has to do this thing and he can't avoid it. And he has that discussion with Jessica about it. And they also start talking about the if they're abominations too, because they're preborn. And it's weirdly, I think it's like the Empire Strikes Back of the series. Sort of, because there isn't really a happy ending. Leto dooms himself to this life that he really doesn't want, but he has to. Ganima gets married to someone she doesn't love, but has to. Aerilon still has her books.
Her books and her writings.
That's the standout of the series, because like everything else that's, you know, from when the book was written to even today, like a lot of these stories that we see in movies and books are all happy endings, good guys win, bad guys lose, that kind of shit. And it's nice to see something that's way outside of that. Like, that's, you know, it's nice sometimes, but here's what is more likely to happen. Like, you can fight hard, win the day, and still lose in the end.
There's actually a saying in Game of Thrones where the best negotiation was everybody leaves the table unhappy.
Oh, yeah.
That it in the books, it comes up a lot where they use some terminology I don't really love, calling John N-wordly. Like, I'm just like, what? Come on, George. Like, we're going there. But I think that kind of is true, though. The best negotiation was everybody gets up and they're not happy. They both give up something. And I guess that would be the first Dune, how that ends, except Paul ends up becoming the Emperor.
Yeah.
So, kind of wins. Do they ever explain why Jessica takes off and just leaves Paul and Alia by herself, other than that's where the Duke died? I don't remember in the other books if they actually explained any further.
Not that I recall.
No.
Okay. Because that was a big thing in Children of Dune, where Jessica shows up to talk to the twins, and Alia's like, she just left me as a child. Left me. And some bad overacting in that, too. But James McAvoy, like, watching it now is like, I totally watch James McAvoy now playing, like, a CGI Leto.
Yeah. Just a little head on top of a giant worm body.
Yeah. Well, it'll be just like in It Chapter 2 when he's a spider with Scar's head. God, that fucking second one sucked. Oh. So, any other thoughts on Dune that you'd like to expound on?
I'm just very excited for the new movie. I know that's I have high hopes. I'm an eternal optimist, and I'll probably either go into it with high hopes and just totally be destroyed and be a like shell of a human being afterwards.
Well, I had that going into Blade Runner. When I went to Blade Runner 2049, I walked in, I was like, I swear to fucking God, better not ruin this. And I walked out going, that was a fucking well-shot movie. And I don't like, oh God, that's the actor's name. Ryan Gosling. I really don't normally like him. Yeah. And I was charmed to hell from him just because of like how like fucked up he was.
That entire movie was pointing at him for something and like, wait, nope.
Oh yeah, there was that swerve where I was like, oh, he's not. And his weird romance with the AI Joy.
Yeah.
Who like is so and she was almost Catwoman.
Really?
She was third for the Catwoman casting for that Robert Pattinson movie. And I kind of was like, I like her. The one I'd really like is the girl who was in Clash of the Titans. She was also in Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters. Fuck, I forget her name. I'm doing real bad with names today. She just unbelievably like just cute and gorgeous, and at the same time, I liked Hathaway's Catwoman.
Yeah,
I thought she was okay.
That wasn't too bad.
I'll save that for Batman cast. Is there any casting that you wish they had made for this movie? Is there one that you just think was so obvious that they didn't make? Like Oscar Isaac, I think, is too young to be Duke Leto.
Yeah, that could probably. When I first saw Timothée Chalamet, that I wasn't sure who he was as an actor yet. And then I recently watched, there's a show on Netflix where he plays a king. And then I was watching it and I'm like, The Crown. And I was like, okay, like I see it. But he was also in Call Me By Your Name. And I haven't seen that yet. So he
was very good in that movie. And it's fucking depressing. It is ungodly depressing. And oh boy, I'll never watch it again. There's a certain amount of movies I watched once, I liked, I'll never watch again. That's one of them. Have you ever seen
Joker was one?
Yeah, I'll never watch that again. It made me uncomfortable. If you've ever seen the horror movie Martyrs, I will never fucking watch that movie again. I loved it. I will never watch it again. There is like a half hour of skinning someone alive.
Ooh.
Solid half hour. But
the payoff is close to, if you ever saw that Radiohead video for Just. Well, they keep asking this guy, like, what did you hear? What did you say? So basically, they're torturing this woman to get her as close to hearing the voice of God. They're bringing her close enough to dying so that she'll hear God. She finally hears it, and she tells these religious nuts what's going on, and they all start dropping dead. And it's just one of those endings where you're like, okay, I just watched a torture movie to get to this.
Yeah.
Maybe not worth it.
But it was, the payoff was good. But at the same time, like, I'm just like, I can't do this again to myself. Because literally I sat there like uncomfortable, like scratching my own arms, just like you heard like noises as they were like, I can't do it.
I think for me, that movie was Mother. If you saw that one with Jennifer Lawrence. That one was, I saw that in theater and left with like PTSD. I truly enjoyed it, but I'll never do it again to myself.
I think the only casting that has me like cautious is Jason Momoa's character, because I always picture Gurney as like this.
Well, no, Duncan.
Sorry.
Gurney's Josh Brolin, who's also like bulky dude. Like...
That's true, yeah. But I don't know if he's going to be if people are going to go see it for him specifically, or if they're going for the whole series and story.
Well, they had a petition about him because he shaved his beard off for the movie.
I remember that.
Like there was a bunch of like lonely mothers who like had made this petition for him to grow his beard back, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
They moved on from
Yeah.
Twilight.
oh,
I feel
dude,
like
that Batman movie's
seeing-
gonna get a lot of Twilight fans.
I actually, so I think that if Robert Pattinson does end up playing, I don't see him as necessarily Bruce Wayne. I see him as Batman because Batman is an emo kid.
Have you seen The Lighthouse yet?
No, but I want to.
He's fucking great in
good?
that movie. Like, I
Okay.
don't want to like it, but him and Willem Dafoe are
Yeah.
fucking awesome in that movie.
Okay. I've got to see that movie.
And it's a creature movie, so it's even better.
Hmm. I hear it has a lot of like Cthulhu, like Lovecraft
Yes.
vibes. Okay. I'm here. I'm here for it.
So, would you consider the sandworms Cthulhu? Sort of the way they pray into him?
Nah, 'cause
No.
Cthulhu's like an unknowable, unseeable horror,
Yeah.
whereas the sandworms are kind of like, this is my ride to work.
If
Mhm.
if I rode to work on that, it'd be awesome.
Wreck our parking lot.
It's such a weird thing for people to worship. It's this giant fucking worm that like
Mhm.
wrecks everything. But I do like want to be in the theater with an Atmos system and hear the thumper going,
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
and then the worms start to the worm signs start. Like, I'm dying for that experience
Hmm.
because like you always want to have that sensation. Like I may even see it in that D box where it's just gonna shake. But just that first thing of the thumper and then the worm coming out and destroying that carrier, like that, I need that. I need that in my life. I'm also curious at the Chris Knights, how like good they're gonna look.
Hmm.
I like the design from the SyFy miniseries.
I've seen so many different designs though of them. Like I've
Yeah.
seen some real Bobo looking ones, and then I've seen like real detailed ones. Just get one of the 3D crafters, like 3D modelers from Etsy. They'll do a great
Yeah.
job.
No, I bought a resin kit years ago. It's from the David Lynch version. It's just hot garbage. It's really bad.
You've got a 3D printer, like just
Yeah, I
make your
know.
own.
I need to.
I don't know how much more I got to say about Dune. Like I feel like we kind of talked it out.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. I can't believe we actually managed to get this going.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the weirdest things that happened where it was just like weirdly we're online. We're like, yes, please.
Yeah.
And him and I have been
remember
joking
posting
for a
that.
year since I started the channel. It's like, when are we gonna do Dune? I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, we'll get there. I suck on camera. I still suck on camera, but I getting better, I guess. And open invite anytime you want to come on and talk comics with me and my friend Gambit, who we do every month. We do a graphic novel book club. I would love to have a ladies' night on here and get you and the Comic Queen and Sydney Reeds or
Yeah.
Sydney Reed.
Yeah.
I'm
Sydney.
trying to get all of them. I do with the Comic Queen every now and again. So a year from now, when this movie comes out, let's all get back together and
Let's do it.
Do a post-mortem on it.
yeah, because
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm gonna have a shitload to say, or I'm just gonna be like, "This is awesome."
Just flipping
don't-
tables.
Any predictions? Like if we can look back a year from now, like that was totally wrong, or
My biggest prediction will be, and I feel it's gonna have the same thing with Alita Battle Angel. It's gonna underperform, and
Yeah.
then it's gonna have that stigma of, is the movie company going to move forward even with it underperforming?
yeah.
Because it's going to be fucking expensive. With that cast and the effects, it's going to be super expensive. Will they still move forward with the sequel? I mean, I imagine, because Villeneuve said he's doing it as 2 parts, the first
Two.
movie.
Yeah.
So we know we get at least 2, but
And where does it leave off? Where is the movie going to cut off for the first part? Is it Paul taking the water of life?
ooh,
That'd be a good.
Yeah.
That'd be a good halfway point.
Hmm.
Or would it be with the Sardaukar stabbing his child? Which, in that TV movie, pretty
Mhm.
jarring. Even though it
Yeah.
happened off screen, where he's like, "Chani, they killed our son."
Yeah.
Like, I just hear him back going, "What the fuck did you just say?"
Yeah, where'd that come from?
Like, seriously, like, just go the fuck to bed.
I think it's gonna have like the Firefly treatment, where like it'll do okay in theaters maybe, but then once it leaves theaters, that's when it gets significantly more popular. I hope.
Because literally, like, the first night, you're gonna have the nerdiest fucking assortment of people. Yeah,
It's gonna be us.
I'll take off work.
Yep.
I'll be doing a live stream afterward, like a reaction, going, "Oh boy,
Traumatized."
Because I mean,
shopping for still suits.
It literally could be amazing, but at the same time, there's a fear of going too far to change it to kind of fit modern theater.
Yeah.
Are they going to try and put more excitement into it, even though it's a lot of politics?
And it's kind of a slow burn. Like, you really have to pay attention.
Kind of like what you said. Like, if you're not following the fact the breeding program, like what they talk about that and how Jessica fucked up everything and created the Kwisatz Haderach like 2 generations too early.
I'm just hoping they don't like change it for the sake of modern sensibilities.
So that's what she was saying earlier. Like, is Baron Harkonnen still going to be doing his shit like the young boys and like in the Me Too era? Like,
I hope so, just for the sake of making people uncomfortable, because that will. We shouldn't like if it's part of the source material. It's I think important to stick to it. And
there's some changes that can be made, but like you have to at least exude the gluttony of him.
And that's what'll, I think, draw the point across more if because of modern or more modern sensibilities.
But I can see the young boys thing like really fucking people like, because right away you're just going, wait, what the fuck did he just say?
Yeah.
And then it's like, boy.
But if it's
that, and we should be able to see queer characters too. Like, that's not a problem, like seeing a queer character. But if the only queer character you see is like raping kids,
that's a problem.
That's a problem.
I totally understand that
to me, like, I 100% understand, like, stick to the source material as much as you can, but when it comes to that, like, fuck the source material. Like, that can be left out.
There could be change. There could be illusions without just going to Front Street.
Implied.
Yeah, you can imply it, but even then, like, I mean, he's a problematic character. He 100% is a problematic character. Even wasn't Thade kind of like into that lifestyle too a little bit?
Yeah.
I do remember that real homoerotic fight scene with all the twinks in the SyFy series.
Slave.
Yeah, when I was just like, what? And then like Baron Harkonnen's kind of licking his lips watching it, and I was just like, Although
can we maybe talk about? Oh, sorry.
In the SyFy series, there is that scene that's horrible effects where the young kid runs up with Raban's head.
Oh, it's amazing.
It felt like it was 20 minutes for him to climb up the hill. He's like, here.
Little legs, a lot of steps.
I'll let you go. Sorry.
Can we maybe talk about like the porn parodies? Like, what's the porn parody of Dune?
Poon.
Yeah, probably. Way too sandy.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what would be the spice must flow, but I'm trying.
Yeah. Put a napkin on it.
The cream must flow.
They go, ooh. Wow.
Oh, what would that porn parody be?
Sorry I went there, but...
Now my head's in that
now
space.
Now we have to know.
Someone's just going to tune out now, like, wait, they're talking Dune porn parodies?
Yep.
Baron Harkonnen.
Ooh. Yep.
Look back a year from now, what the
Yep.
The Boner Jesuits.
The Boner Jesuits. See, like, this stuff makes itself.
I can't even think of one for the Fremen.
Fremen.
It's going to be bad, whatever it is.
It's dirty hippies.
Your water is mine. The seed must flow.
The seed must flow. There, see?
I'm snorting. That's bad. I should not be drinking. Oh God! And then of course there'll be the SNL parody of it.
Ooh. Okay.
See, that'll be a good indicator if it's going to pick up popularity. Is if it starts being parodied by, overnight or late night talk shows.
But like, I can't wait. Like, I want to see a trailer already for this movie because supposedly they've
They've wrapped production.
Yeah, they've wrapped, and I guess they're just doing the effects now. So I imagine by summer we're going to see a trailer.
Yeah. What movie do you think that's coming out will be?
That's
you think Comic-Con will see it first? What movie do you think will like go to theaters to see it in? Like, what's...
What company's doing it? Is it Legendary?
Mm.
Hold on one sec. It is not telling me what the production company is. It feels like it'd be something Legendary does. It's got to be the same people that did 2049.
Yeah.
More than likely.
It has one of the largest art director and set decorator and costume designers I've ever seen.
Yeah. What was the budget for it?
It does not have that listed. It's easily got to be at least 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Avengers Endgame and Infinity War were $500 million to do both movies.
So it would have to be, because if it's 2 movies, it's going to be near there.
Then you add in marketing, which is probably going to be at least another 20 to 30 million, at least. It's fascinating. I mean, money's got to be spent on this, but the fact they're done with initial production and wrapped, I can't wait to see this trailer because it's gonna break me, because I'll be the one in the theater going, please don't be bad, and it'll be probably an IMAX. Have you seen the trailer for Tenet?
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
New Christopher Nolan movie. It's I forget who the black actor is, but it's Robert Pattinson in that too, and it looks like time jumping. There was a 10-minute teaser before Rise of Skywalker when I saw it in IMAX.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this movie. Yeah, it's typical Christopher Nolan. Like, it's kind of a bit of a mind fuck. He still hasn't seen Inception.
I was just about to say Inception.
I'm lazy.
It's.
I'm not a big DiCaprio fan, so it's not. Like
It's a good ensemble movie, but the effects they do, and what's reality and what isn't, in the end, is the closest to John Carpenter's The Thing I've seen. Of you build your own ending.
Yeah.
And I had
theories.
Had a girl I dated who hated the end of The Thing, but loved the end of Inception, and I lost my shit because I was like, "Wait, how the fuck can you like that? We have these two guys sitting there ready to kill each other, trying to figure out who's going to be turned." She's like, "It's stupid." I was like, "Fuck you." We're not together anymore, so imagine that.
Yeah.
I'm very hardcore about my movies. No, it was worse than that. Yeah, so with that, I think we're at a good wrapping up point. So where can I find you?
Me?
Jennifer? Yes.
I mean, I'm in Oregon.
Well, I mean, besides...
Or are you talking about on them
online,
so,
yes.
I do a lot of kind of just basic comic, this is the comic that I picked up on Instagram. That's probably going to be the easiest place. I save a lot of my personal shit posting of memes for friends and family on Facebook, but that's going to be about it.
Gotcha. Kyle?
Instagram, the Waffleswonder. It's mostly lock picking and just general shenanigans. Nothing terribly serious.
For me, it's at dirty_epic. That's my personal. So don't bitch at me about seeing selfies. It's comic books. I put my YouTube shit on there. If you just want the YouTube shit, it's comic_chop_news, because that's what they let me have. And on Twitter, you can find me at chopcomic. My YouTube channel, basically, I've been kind of slacking on the movies because I got tired of getting content ID hits. So it's mostly been comic book reviews. Every Sunday I do previews. Every Wednesday I do reviews, usually about 3 to 4 books. And once a month, myself and my co-host and tattoo artist Gambit get together, and we do the graphic novel book club, the ink panels, where we pick a graphic novel, we talk about it. We don't really ever plan anything out, so it's just kind of shooting off the top of our heads. And hopefully one day, Jen and Comics will join us on there if he's comfortable enough to come back on. I'd love to talk shit with you about some books. And thank you to anybody who was watching. I appreciate it. Great first time with you, Jennifer. I'm hoping you're comfortable now doing it. Again, any tips when you want to start actually doing videos, I'll be more than happy. And I'm glad this all came together. I'm surprised it actually managed to happen.
It took a year.
Well, I mean, honestly, I didn't think we'd ever live stream this. So it's great. And thank you, everybody. And let's, a year from now, come back and talk shit about the new movie. And again, you have an open invite anytime you see me post about something that we're going to talk about to come on. Of course, you being the West Coast, it's a little struggle.
That 3-hour time difference. But
yeah, plus your schedule, my schedule.
Yeah.
And all right. Anybody got anything else to say before we leave? I have a little something to say.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. Like, I loved it. So thank you.
So
Definitely fun.
From the Dune quotes. Oh God, I thought I said it. Okay. Bless the Maker and all his water. Bless the coming and going of him. May his passing cleanse the world. May he keep the world for his people. So say we all. No. Battlestar Galactica. Again, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate everybody who tuned in and love talking with you, Jen and Comics. We've been talking by text for a while online.
Yeah.
And again, appreciate the nice things you said when I was going through a rough time. That you didn't need to do that.
You got it.
And I am so happy to have gotten this done. And again, you open invite anytime you want.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Bye-bye. And hey, wait, what are you doing?